they will plan. And sometimes it's a very elaborate plan, sometimes it's a fairly simple plan, but they have a plan. And they work on that plan a lot. It's really important to them because it's their only option. Planning, by the way, police at schools, working with schools, and police at companies, and police across America, and FBI, they're getting better and better at preventing attacks. These things. I went to some training recently for some school violence stuff, and I can tell you we went down several case studies of events that had been prevented recently, and there's some things that were being planned out there that would make Columbine look like a day in the park. So we're getting better at it, and a lot of times it's happening here in the planning stage. Leakage, social media, all that stuff. The preparation stage also is an opportunity for prevention. So now they finished their plan and they know what they want to do and they're going to do it. They've got to go get stuff together. It's either a simple plan and they only need a little bit, or it's a complicated thing like Oklahoma City. He's got to get a lot of big stuff together. Good chance for prevention here. But once this one's done, prevention's pretty much out the window, because now we're in the approach stage, okay? He has made the plan. He's prepared. He's gotten all the stuff he needs. And now, to use a military term, he's going to cross the line of departure and head to the objective. I told you it's a suicide, right? So we know right now he's not afraid to die. But they're all scared of one thing. They have one fear. Anybody know what that might be? Failure. Remember the buffet line of life. Not an option. This is it, man. This is their last option. They don't have any more. They have nothing. So the worst thing in the world to them right now is the thought that they're going to fail. Because that's a really bad thing. So woe be to anything that gets in their way here. And then finally the implementation stage. This is where it's on. The bomb goes off, the trigger gets pressed, whatever, it's on. And once it's here, it's not stopping until the police kill him or stop him, or he kills himself, or someone does something. He's not stopping. And the reason he's not stopping is because he has no escape plan. His escape is death. It's suicide. So here's another term, barricaded suspect. And I want to tell you about it for a second because it's important to know the distinction between these two terms. A barricaded suspect can become an active shooter or vice versa, but it's fairly rare. It's pretty rare. Now, it's all about motives. A barricaded suspect is someone who is either just themselves or with some hostages, maybe, is barricaded in a bank or a home or something. And they either have some expressive motive, it's like an emotional thing, like a loss, and they just want someone to hear. It's not necessarily about killing themselves or someone else, although they might be thinking of suicide, right? Substantive motives. This is the classic bank robber. He's in there, someone trips a silent alarm, next thing you know the cops are outside, and he's yelling and telling the cops he'll kill all of these people, and that's the barricade suspect. So I was able to go through the FBI's crisis hostage negotiator course a couple years ago. Great training, fantastic, and it was all pretty much all about barricade suspects. So here's what I learned from that to help us here is, well over 90% of the time, barricaded suspect case, once they're talking to authorities, a negotiator or somebody, once that communication link is there, over 90% of the time, nobody dies that day. Which means, oh, and when they do, it's usually the bad guy. Which means for you and me, if you're in a bank robbery, if you find yourself in that situation, and he's threatening people and scaring people, maybe even hitting a few people and yelling at the cops, relax and take a deep breath and do what he says. The odds are very, very high that you're going to go home just fine. Okay? The active shooter is the exact opposite. He ain't talking to nobody. Okay? There was a shooting in Reno, where I live. I live in Reno, Nevada, a couple weeks ago. It was a school shooting a month ago. I don't know if you read about it. It was huge news out there. And a 12-year-old monster brought a gun to school, shot a couple other 12-year-olds. Fortunately, didn't kill them, but he did kill a teacher, and then he killed himself. Okay? The teacher that died was, and is, and always shall be, a hero of mine and should be of everyone's. He's a great man, okay? The teacher, it turns out he's a 49-year-old former Marine. And, you know, not just because this thing took place a couple miles from where I live, but also because I happen to be a 49-year-old former Marine who teaches people. So can relate, right? There's my personal database. I would not have advised him to do what he did, and I know why he did it, because I know how Marines think, and I know how teachers think, and I know what he was thinking. He saw Johnny on the playground with a gun. This teacher, by the way, was one of those guys, that guy at the school. All the kids loved him, great rapport with the kids, all of that. He saw Johnny with a gun, and he said, I can fix this. I know Johnny, I can talk to Johnny. And he went out on the playground, and he tried to talk to Johnny, and Johnny shot him dead. He did that because that's what people like him do. They try to help, right? But that wasn't Johnny, and that's what I would have told him. I would have said, that's not Johnny, it's a monster. He's not Johnny. And they come in all ages. So, yeah, when they happen, and you're in it, and it's happening, if it's someone you know that you work with, even if it's someone you have a good rapport with, you're not talking them out of it. Now, they might go right by you. They might not shoot you as they're shooting other people. They might look at you and go, you never did it to me. You might not be on their injustice collector list. Who knows? They might not. But you're still not talking them out of it, and you should not try. You should just do the things we're about to talk about to keep yourself alive. Anytime, anywhere, anyone. I tell my mom this, I tell everybody I know and love this. It can happen anywhere. To anybody, anytime. And when it does happen, it's going to be really bad. It's going to be probably the worst thing that ever happened to you. Okay? And you have to do something about it, because the police are going to come. Law enforcement will come 100% of the time. Every active shooter case, always 100% of the time, they will come. But they will not come in time to save everybody. By its nature, these events usually start with someone getting shot, one person getting shot, so that person's not going to get saved. No matter how close they are, how far they are. Fort Hood, the terrorist attack at Fort Hood, the first responders were in shouting distance, literally. And he still killed 15, 16 people. It happens fast, okay? It happens really fast. By the way, I didn't mention in that case study, the monster's usually dead in between 5 to 11 minutes. That's when it's over. But most of the time, nobody else knows it's over. Or the police don't know for sure, etc. So they won't assume, you shouldn't assume. It's just one of those things. It's over quick. And so if the people that are there don't do something, then it's going to get bad. And when they can do things, it helps mitigate it. We'll show you what we mean. This video, it's short, couple minutes. It's got some audio, great audio and video from a couple of recent shootings. And please listen closely and look, and remember the part about imagining yourself and all that. Listen to these people's voices and what they're saying. And when we get done, we'll talk about it for a minute, because it's very instructive. Okay?
It is probably the worst experience I've ever been in my life. I mean, it was most terrifying. And you always like kind of, imagine what would you do. You hear about these horrible incidences, and you got to kind of ask yourself, what would I do in a situation like that? And the only thing I could do was just keep my eyes down the hallway to make sure he wasn't coming down, and just try to keep calm. But I mean, everybody was just going crazy. It was probably the most terrifying experience I've ever been through.
Everybody. Chill. Come on, you guys.
What I heard the gunshots. I was going through the security gate, and I was picking up my stuff, and I saw people hit the ground and scurrying, and TSA agents telling people to run towards the gates.
I put my boot in the tray, and all of a sudden we heard the shots, and we just all fell to the floor and on top of each other, and it was like a dream. It wasn't real. It was like a movie. It was so intense, and it wasn't normal to hear that. And so we all just panicked and just started flooding through the screening x-ray machines, and TSA was right there with us, and we just didn't know what to do. It's just unreal right now. I'm shaking. I'm scared. I don't know if we're still safe.
And we got pulled into a room that they pulled a copy machine in front of the door that was under a desk, at which point we weren't allowed to leave the room, but you could hear a lot of shouting and more gunshots outside the room.
What was happening around you?
Just pure and utter mayhem. I mean, people were tripping over each other on the floor, bags everywhere, crying, screaming.
And once you run into this room and someone grabs a copy machine and shoves it up against the door, what's everyone saying around you?
Everyone said to turn cell phone ringers off. People were holding each other's hands. They didn't want to open the door when the security manager came because we didn't know who it was.
And they were turning these cell phone ringers off because the fear was this person was roaming around the airport and you didn't want to make a sound. Is that right?
Yeah.
The first frantic calls to police came in just after 8:15 a.m. Shots fired. Several people injured at the U.S. Navy Yard.
I heard 3 shots. Pow, pow, pow. 30 seconds later, I heard 4 more shots, and a couple of us that were in the cafeteria knew they were shots and started panicking.
I know that I lost a friend today. I lost someone who I had served with in the Pentagon years ago with, I believe, to be one of the fatalities.
As he came around the corner, he aimed his gun at us, and then he fired at least 2 or 3 shots.
3,000 people work at the facility just miles from the White House and the Capitol.
He was far enough down the hall that we couldn't see his face, but we could see him with the rifle, and he raised and aimed at us and fired, and he hit high on the wall.
Everybody hear the magic word? Scurrying? I've had that in this presentation for like 4 years. The reason that man said it is because it's what he saw. He saw it happening. Okay, my dad always taught me that we all set an example one way or another. Good example, bad example, right? There's plenty to learn here. Good can come from the most evil of things, and the good that can come from things like this is we can all learn from it.